Unseated, undivided, torn apart, but reunited.
Aambe Giigididaa Wiikwemkoong. Hello out there, it is Carrie Sinaway here with Aambe Giigididaa Wiikwemkoong. Yes, we are back, coming at you with a lot more information, something really exciting that we're talking about here today with this really interesting person. I like the way he's dressed. I gotta go with that look there, Pat. It's a really cool look. A lot of you in our community know who this man is here. His name is Patrick Fox, and he is the project manager, special projects for Midday Conning Program, which is the oil and gas program for lands and resources for Wiikwemkoong. So yeah, an amazing project.
Yes, it is. I've been on this project for 8 years now. And started off fairly green, not knowing much about oil and gas. You would never think that Manitoulin or our territory is known for its oil and gas, but sure enough, as you kind of look through the history, we see that it's a very long and somewhat proud history of what we do have. I kind of say sometimes it's like it should be made for a TV movie almost, because of the involvement that over the last century plus with these oil wells dating back to the first production in the 1860s.
Wow. You talk about it should be like a TV movie. It's kind of like a TV movie right here, okay? We'll say it. This is kind of like it,
yes.
The coverage-wise. But speaking of that, Pat, there was a video that was created about 8 years ago from a community member. I guess he was a student at the time, Leo Pelche, and he was working with Wapakoni on, I guess they're like a traveling film video company.
That's correct.
And they did do a program, or actually a short film. It's about 8 minutes. On the project, and they took us into the forest and to see how it's done. So what we're going to do right now for everybody watching is we're going to give a glimpse of what this oil and gas program is about, because we're looking at the abandonment, oil well abandonment. Right?
Yes, that's correct. The abandonment reclamation.
Reclamation, exactly.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to flip into that video right now, just so you get a glimpse of what we're talking about, and we'll come right back at you when that is done.
Ani Bonjour. My name is Leo Pelche, and I'm from Wiikwemkoong Unceded Indian Reserve. I have just finished my first year of college and have returned to my hometown for an internship for the Department of Lands and Natural Resources. In our department, we are currently focusing on the finding, controlling, and sealing off the oil and gas wells within the reserve that were left unmaintained by the oil companies in the past century. These wells must be found before any damage is done to the environment and Wiikwemkoong's residents.
A lot of the staff that we're bringing on are students that are going to school now in fields of different areas of concern that probably are areas that are new to them, so that they can help our department, help our community. It's better to keep the staff in-house instead of outsourcing it all the time to consultants or special companies that are out there. And we try to ensure that they get their feet wet and come and work for us, and that's what we want them to have.
It is important that we take care of this problem because the land here is sacred and the medicines and animals will be greatly affected by these wells.
Okay, good morning guys. We're here out in South Bay, Doganing, our natural territory. We're going to move off our original site today, where we've been working for the last little while, and we're going to come out and prospect what we believe is a gas well out here in South Bay, Jocko Bay area. Machines on, further apart, and I want you to proceed this way.
Searching for the wells with the metal detectors is more difficult than finding Waldo. Because of the poor job the oil companies did keeping track of the records, this process is like finding a needle in a haystack.
So this is exactly what we should be looking for. Stuff like this.
Look at this one here.
Stuff like this. Yeah. And take a look at this. Here's something that's really good. You see this? Mm-hmm. This is a core sample here. This is interesting. That means they were drilling here. Okay, so this is an indicator right here.
Usually we pick up tin or scraps and it could take us a whole day or more to find a well. Some of the signs I picked up here were low growth or low vegetation when near an oil or gas well. You also have to watch out for anything that looks man-made, like mounds of dirt that shouldn't be there, or really old logs, and even oddly piled rocks.
Hopefully we'll be looking for finding that well very shortly.
Are you,
We're getting there.
well, you got something? Anthony, do you have something?
Yeah, it's right here.
You got it. Okay, we got a visual. Gene, you want to come in with the tester?
You want to step back there, Anthony? Step back.
Till it's clear?
It's clear.
It's clear. Stitch, it looks like a gasser.
We have to ensure that we protect our land for future generations. To ensure that we have the safety of the community's drinking water, we have to ensure that we have the safety of the environment for future generations, and that's what we want. And this is the whole reason for this project. This is the process that, as field technicians, this is what you'll be doing on a constant basis. Usually on your own, we'll drop you off in a location. You may have a location, you may just have a dot on the map to go look for, and you got to spend all day looking at it.
So good job, guys.
Yeah.
Good job. And I think we're going to be satisfied with this for now. And then let's take a little break and then we'll move on to exploring further down the road. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
If we don't find and seal these wells, it could cause serious damage. It could let off dangerous gases, disturb plant growth, and contaminate the waters. We are literally just cleaning up someone else's mess. Because these oil companies left these wells open, so it's now up to us to find and close these off. For me, finding these wells are important because a lot of these are near public places or beaches like Thomas Bay, and I like Thomas Bay. I swim and hang out there, and would like the future generations to enjoy it too. These oil wells, they're going to make a big impact environmentally, so I want to do as much as I can to help my hometown.
That was great insight. What an amazing video just to get a look at, what happens when teams are out there, Patrick. And yes, you look the same 8 years ago.
Hey, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I tried to.
You're like, yes, that's a good thing, right? So taking us back to that time, I mean, that information is there. I mean, we saw it visually, saw the team, we had the explanations on that. Just give us a little glimpse. We're looking back 8 years and now here you are today.
Wow, yeah, that was 8 years and quite a difference from 8 years to today. 8 years ago, we were running off of basic, very poor oil records. So the distance, we did have oil records, but they were within 1,000 meters. So it's basically looking for a drop in the bucket. So we're looking for a hole that would have been something about this size, and if we're lucky, it sticks out of the ground. So this particular piece is from the documentary, is what we were looking for. It's a coring from the TB Thomas Bay 19 well, which was a very unique area that we worked in. Seeing it was on an elvar, being an old seabed, and there was very much a lot of species at risk there that we had to be very diligent that we didn't damage any of them. We went so far as mapping them out. The Hills thistle was a plant of concern, and we staged in everything off the road, which basically we brought in pieces as we need. Sometimes we use a 50 by 50 decommissioning area, but for this particular zone, because of the sensitivity, we had to narrow it down to a 20 by 20, so basically bringing in each piece as needed. And it was a very much a learning experience for all of us. 8 years ago, I wind back 8 years ago. One of the other items that we found 8 years ago was this unique piece, which was from the oil seep, what we call the oil seep. And some of the old history is that this piece was a plug. So what they did is you have a conduit, which is the oil pipe, and that when it's done, they sit it in there. And this is the technique of the day, 1860 vintage, 1868 to be exact. That no longer is sufficient in our eyes. So we remediate by plugging or cleaning out the conduit, which is the well casing, and we flush it, we lubricate to take the chips out and stuff that we find or whatever debris that has fallen over the past 100 years, and we encase the casing with sulfur-resistant cement. And this is, we go from the bottom right to the top. So most of our wells that we have found are what they call shallow wells compared to Alberta. So these wells are, basically 150 meters, we'll say, give or take a few meters, to our deepest one, which was the Thomas Bay well, where we got this, which was a gas well, which was about 300 and some meters. I can't remember exactly, but I know it was over three. It was fairly deep considering what we have here. To date, we did 23 wells. We have one. We did a holding facility, and you could actually see some of our wells. Like if you're traveling through the community, we've placed placards or signs putting the date that we abandoned, the name of the well, and the long and the latitudes of each. So we don't forget, and we'll always have some sort of memory of where these wells are in our community. And basically, we have the Cape Smith area where we have the natural oil seep, was where we did the majority of our wells. We have a Murray Hill area. The Murray Hill corridor is where we did another grouping of wells. And then we have, I would call a sprinkle of other wells here and there in the community where they tried to do exploration or production. So we're at 23 right now, but we do believe that from the well license that we see, we do believe that there is maybe 60, maybe 80 wells. Just to find these wells are probably, it'll be a difficult chore, but I'm up for the task because we kind of do it forensically, we do it ecologically. So we look for ecological damage. Usually with these wells, hydrocarbons will leave a unique signature. With hydrocarbons, we also find brine water, which also leaves a unique signature. So we'll see this little hole or burn area in the bush, we'll say, and then we look for other key factors like shale, if shale's around, or different unique things that hydrocarbons will seem to like poison ivy, so they kind of go hand in hand. So we see large poison ivy, we'll see that, and we'll say, well, okay, we're kind of following the trail. So we piece together this puzzle during the year, and we always hope that we turn up a well. So it's unique in that sense, and some of the techniques we've moved on from not knowing. So we've actually moved into LiDAR. So we did some bare earth, kind of trying to understand the contouring or the landscape. And we're going to get into a geological phase this year, and we're going to try to kind of expand upon the LiDAR that we've had done in always reading history papers. So that's it's a never-ending story, and I'm always intrigued at the end of the day.
So when we're looking back at 1860,
Yes.
as you're talking about that, I mean, wow, when we're looking at oil and gas actually in Wiikwemkoong, that's quite amazing. So do you have any kind of a historical picture that you can paint in our minds on how it was back then, and the hustle and bustle of looking for this oil and gas, and like you said, exploration?
Yeah, actually I do. It's really unique. There was, I think it boils down to this in my research, there's Logan's Geological Work of Canada, which was one of the first books that came out. And this is just prior to the oil boom in Petrolia and Oil Springs. So some people say that we're competing right along the same as those very first ones here, which is kind of unique in itself, that these wells are some of the earlier ones. But to get to the point here is that we had the Jesuit missionaries here, and he was returning home or to the area of Windsor. And what happened is he was walking through Petrolia and Oil Springs, and he said, I saw that where I come from. And everybody's ears propped up because oil was such a hot thing back then. And well, where did you see it, sir? I saw it on the Manitoulin. So I kind of thought to myself, well, these people kind of went through their Oil Springs Petrolia thing, and then they, when it kind of got busy there and there was kind of landlocked for new wells, they decided to come here, and they sent geologists first, and the geologists came, and then they did their inspections or their thing they do, and then they found the natural seep that we have here, and then they said that they tried to produce. So it was always an ongoing thing to find. Well, they did find oil, and I believe they found about 500 barrels worth. And some stories will say that there is a lot more. I tend to believe there was a lot more production that took place because I see some of the historical facts that have taken place, and I was saying, well, there was a lot of jockeying for position for the oil here on the Manitoulin. And before I have to draw back here a little bit, also that the oil wells are also not just unique to Wiikwemkoong here, but they're also scattered on the Manitoulin. We're in a unique formation where the oil sits very shallow, and I have a kind of a layman's knowledge on it that you know, during this shifting of plates and so on, it just kind of turned it up, and that's what I know. So yeah, so the Jesuits kind of brought it out there, and then we had suitor after suitor trying to get this bit of land. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's amazing. And then when we look from there in the evolution to this day then, so we're not doing any exploration anymore, that's all...
No, that's the way of the dinosaur.
That's the way of the dinosaur, but a lot of history in that, for sure. So, you know, you said that back in the day, the Jesuits stumbled upon this, and he's like, I've seen that before. Is that something that people could do now? If you're out and walking, and can you stumble upon an old oil well that's not charted yet, or...
There is a possibility of that, but I want to bring back to a little bit of history is that they reused a lot of these casings. So they would sink a well, and then they'd find what we call a dry hole, and then they would pull up what they can to reuse it elsewhere. So, and not only that, what complicates things a little bit more is that during the World War II effort, people were gathering scrap metal. So then they said, oh, there's a nice piece of scrap metal, and I can get a couple of bucks for that, I suppose. And so we end up losing them there also. But one thing, nature does not lie. So nature will tell us always whether there was a significant issue. And yes, somebody could stumble upon it. Give me a call. If you stumble upon it, give me a call. Because I'd like to fix that. Because at the end of the day, it brings great joy to know that we bring this remediation, reclamation to our community. And I have some areas that I'm very proud of when I see after the regrowth and the work that we put into it. My department, we like to put a standard out there of we're going to do it good, but we want to do it that much more better because we live here. So we want to make sure that, you know, the grass is regrowing, the trees are planted. And one year we did a tree planting phase where on all these wells we planted apple trees. So as a way of our stamp of saying we've healed this spot. So it's one of the things that we've done. So, you know, I'm always looking, so I don't want anybody trespassing. If you're not sure, give the lands department a call, and I'll be glad to go out there and respond to that if you see something unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really good information to know. I mean, that it's still there. It's quite active. The program's active. You guys are quite active out there. Do you have a lot of staff working on this? Is there opportunities? Do you bring maybe youth out? Just to give a little bit of education, like something like that we saw in the video earlier.
Well, yeah, we do have a small staff that we work with. I'd like to mention one of my prospectors. He's been with me for 8 years. His name's Derek Pelche. And he's really grown into his shoes, and he's a qualified expert now, I would say, in the field of searching for these oil wells. We do bring in summer students from time to time when we have the opportunity to share our knowledge. And we do usually a yearly community consultation, an update. So we'll probably have one usually in the fall, because it's kind of like when we're kind of working out through our summer and stuff. We stay quite busy with this because we work 3 seasons, and I think December 12th was like our last day, and it was like literally the day before it snowed here, and we were out checking a new lead and traveling. But we try to, we're open to sharing, because this is everybody's information and that live here, so we share as need be, but we're out there and we try to I still like to go into the schools once this COVID thing's over and kind of talk in the schools about this a little bit too.
And that's the other point too. And you mentioned the last time you were out and about was in December. We're on kind of approaching spring. Spring's in the air, but the snow's still on the ground. I guess you're excited to get back out there into, into the land itself, right? But the work does not stop. I mean, you're still continuing to work, as you mentioned, like computers. Work on the computers.
I'm constantly looking at maps. You can always find me in the office looking at old maps. So the desktop exercise for the winter has not really changed over the last few years. So we have this new LiDAR information, which we're looking at bare earth, and this is really unique to me, my first time. So just kind of learning the steps through that. But we use the 1940 aerials of the community. We have a set of those. And I use a magnifying glass or a set of, I don't know what the fancy name is, but I use a magnifying glass and I look at the little anomalies in these pictures. And we're looking for unique signatures of something that is not right. And that's always the case. All our traditional knowledge on this is really hard to find right now because those people that were involved in it were drawing back 120 years. So we have very few wells that we could actually say, like somebody says, yeah, I saw that as a youth, or hey, we lit that up on fire. Don't condone that either. But yes, yeah. So basically, those people aren't there for us to ask. So the desktop wintertime has its usefulness, and this is where we discuss our plan with our department, our community, and Indian Oil and Gas Canada, who fund this project, which we're thankful for that they participate in a willing way.
Exactly. And that's really important, that, like you said, the traditional knowledge, like it taking us back, we're always seeking that in everything that we're doing in our community itself, in every aspect, every sector. And when you bring in items like this, I just that totally amazes me I didn't know what that was when you first brought it in, and then you flip it upside down and you're telling me that's a plug. I mean, it's just, wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
So that's really good information. And, it's something to be proud of. I mean, it's part of the history of Wiikwemkoong.
That's right.
Right? It's back then, and we're still involved in it to some extent. With the work that you're doing, the department is doing as well. And I know that you've been featured in, articles, magazines. Want to mention that?
Hey, yeah, we were featured. There's the National Petroleum Show in Calgary, and we were featured in an article from participating in that. With Oil Week Canada, and they did a feature on us on the project. This was a couple of years ago now, but this was during. It was really hot because we're during our remediation cycle. It's very exciting. I got to jump into this for a sec. But when we remediate, that's all the fruit of my work that I see. And it's basically like a holiday. I sit back and I watch and I have a smile from ear to ear, and well, we do this, but Oil Week, Indian Resource Council, we did some work with CBC, and we hope to continue. Here we are today, and we would like to share our knowledge and our story with people.
Mm-hmm. With our community.
Absolutely.
Right? And we're really happy to have you. Now we're looking at the future.
Hey, future's bright.
Yeah.
We're hoping that we do have a couple of wells on the roster within the community. We're building for another program of reclamation work, our abandonment work. So the future, getting into the geological end of things. So we find unique rocks and we want to kind of know a little bit more about it. So with the bare earth, we're tying in all these pieces that we've gathered over the years, like a puzzle. Gather these pieces here and there, and then we form the picture, and we take our best guess. And then we actually, at the end of the day, it's actually my worker, Derek, who goes in there with the metal detector, and we pinpoint exactly where it is, and there's nothing better than hearing that chime. I pulled up my share of nails, nails and old metal, but that really is a pleasing sound. And when I hear my guys out of the bush yelling pipe, that brings an excitement to myself.
Sounds really interesting. It kind of reminds me of that show that they have, Curse of Oak Island. Hey, exploration.
Which I'm a fan of, yeah.
Do you have one of those detectors? You walk around.
We have the exact same one that he uses.
That is so cool. Have you found any gold?
Hey, no, we won't be sharing that one. Yeah.
Well, that sounds really great. It's very enlightening to find out more about this. And I think we did an article in Kagamuk magazine as well about a year or so ago, in our community magazine as well. So
That's correct.
That's
That's
great. I
correct.
remember working with you on
yeah,
that.
that's
right.
correct.
Cool.
That's good.
So, is there any other last points you want to make?
Well, I want to share a couple more points, actually. I'd like to talk about our water. And our water is our life, and we all know this. And this is what drives me at the end of the day, to ensure that we're on an island and things tend to run towards water. So I always want to make sure that we look at those little tributaries, we look at the runoff. Spring is very key for us when we start to go with our rubber boots and we're looking down the shorelines to where there's areas, and ensuring that there's no damage, or we note unique things, signatures that are out there. Hydrocarbon in water doesn't necessarily look like, we think of this black oil, but it kind of actually looks like coffee with creamer in it. So when you kind of see it, it has a unique smell of diesel, kind of like a diesel smell. So we bring in our senses to these things too. And even on a, it's just taking care of our water, taking care of these plants, our medicines. And and also, just ensuring that our next generation will have a better place to be. So that's it. At the end of the day, that's my goal.
Amazing. Miigwech for all that information.
Thank you.
The history, what you're doing now, and what the plans are for the future. It's really key. So if people want to find out more information on their own.
Well, if they want to, we do have a Facebook page, the Medea Conning Facebook page. Or better yet, if you want to sit down and we can find a safe distance, social distance, I'm always available to talk to somebody. And if you have any leads, let me know. If you have any leads, I'd be glad to take a look at those for you in a safe, professional way. And we wear gas sniffers, and so we ensure there's a hydrogen sulfide is a little bit of an issue, but we don't have too much of it here. But let me take care of that for you.
So when you say a lead, that means if you're walking, you see something that could be,
Give me a call.
give him a call. So they just call the
Lands Department.
The Lands Department, and we have the phone number. We'll have the phone number up on the screen, as well as some of the links to the articles that you refer to as well, and just your contact information, Patrick.
Absolutely.
Right?
Thank you.
Perfect. Miigwech, well, I just want to say again, Miigwech, Patrick Fox, giving us some great insight into Medea Conning program here in Wiikwemkoong. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us, whether you're at home or you're on the net, on your phone. And of course, you can always find us on our Facebook page as well, Aambe Giigididaa Wiikwemkoong. It is that easy. So let's talk Wiikwemkoong. You can also send me an email if you have any story ideas, really cool things happening in our community, or really cool people as well. That's WUT-talkshow@wiikwemkoong.ca. So I want to say again, Miigwech, and we'll see you next time. Bama.
Sitting, watching star rise, watching